if we can give, more time to complete these assignments, I guarantee you students are not going to be like, oh, I have to do it by Wednesday, 11:59, or I have to do it
Mhm.
by Friday, or else I'm going to be failing this class.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Jay's Up Podcast. Now, I know it's been a while, but we're here now, and we're hitting you with the most interesting topic yet. So, I'm your host, Christopher NICANOR of the Jay's Up Podcast, and today I am joined by Joshua Elizondo, who is a sophomore at PSJA Southwest, and I'd like to introduce him as a student activist, if you will, who has recently started a petition to help improve students' mental health by um, kind of banding together and hopefully seeing how much school workload has been put on us, and hopefully we can have that in some way reduced. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I just want to help you introduce yourself, Joshua. So go ahead.
Well, hi, my name is Joshua Elizondo. I'm a sophomore at PSJA Southwest Early College High School. And online learning, it's been tough, but I decided, to put out this petition to hopefully, create a change, whether it's great or small, and hopefully, something could happen. So that, students are able to, have a better drive for school and be able to, be better well educated and, have have a much more, how do I say this? Have a much more positive attitude to, enjoying school, whether it be
Hmm.
virtual or physical.
Right. We want the students to be more self-aware about what exactly is, happening with online learning and things like that. So I'm just going to start off by reading out your statement of the petition, and it's a little lengthy, but yeah, just let me start.
Sounds good.
So Joshua writes, "We have started this petition at our high school to assure that our voices be heard. The student population, district-wide, hopes that our petition can receive support for our cause. COVID-19 has affected students worldwide, whether it be their studies, extracurricular activities, or any involvement within the school. Students have had to adapt to the current situation. As one of many high school students, I have been challenged with the new learning environment within the confines of my home. Compared to the struggles us students have endured in face to face learning, online learning itself creates multiple new difficulties. We are expected to sit in front of electronic devices for the entirety of a school day, which can be over 7 hours. After our synchronous core classes, students will continue to remain facing these screens as we complete our school's assigned work. Not only are we completing schoolwork, but many students have also have to care for their family members, as others must work to support their families financially. Although teachers are only required to have 12 grades per 6 weeks, teachers assign multiple assignments for their class, which collectively can add up to over 25 grades per 6 weeks. This is two times the required amount. With the constant work assigned to us daily, our mental health is put to the test. As an A honor roll student of my class, I make sure that education is prioritized. I believe that there is a misguided conception that students must be kept busy with work during these distant learning times. However, if students are given greater quantities of work without giving thought to quality, there lies the problem. Not only is our learning intake being affected, but our mental health is too. High school students range from the ages of 14 through 18, and most students enjoy time for entertainment and their well being. With the current output of work, students are not receiving the opportunity to have this personal time. Instead, students must submit various assignments by the end of the week, by the end of the day, or we will suffer a decline in our grades. We kids, just like any other individual, must have time for our social and emotional interactions. If we are able to make a change for the better, great or small, students will have an improved mental health and a better appreciation for virtual learning and the school district. And end quote for Joshua's writing. And Can you talk a little bit more about this before I start asking you questions? What when was the moment where you realized, and how long have you had this idea that, maybe teachers are, not necessarily understanding, or maybe they are, but they feel pressured to, assign us this workload? When exactly did you have this idea?
So, starting, back in my freshman year of summer, I was faced with like my first online classes, and it was like right then and there that I noticed like this is not my cup of tea. But we're gonna have to put up with it. I have no other choice. Like,
Mhm,
you got to do what you got to do. So, I talked to my parents, and they're very understanding. Like, online learning is not his cup of tea. He rather prefers in person. But with
mhm,
COVID, I mean, that's almost impossible. For the safety of our
mhm,
students and our teachers and administration as well. Um, but I started. I'm gonna give credit where it's due. I saw petitions from other schools, one including PSJA Raiders, and it was like this school is doing a petition. I would like to help my campus out as well. So I decided,
mhm.
let me put out a petition. Let's see how far it can get, and hopefully, a change can be made, an agreement, a solution can be found for this, for this problem.
Because clearly it's something that affects not only the students at PSJ Southwest, but district wide and nationwide and statewide, things like that. And so I'm just going to point out little things inside of the writing or the statement, and then I'm going to go ahead and ask you questions about
Sounds good.
the specific part. So you write that we are expected to sit in front of our electronic devices for the entirety of a school day, which can be over 7 hours, which is true. After our synchronous core classes, students will continue to remain facing these screens as we complete our school's assigned work. And by that, I know you mean homework, but I mean everything's basically homework, right? We're at home constantly.
Yes.
But when you write that, I I I understand what you're saying because I've thought of this myself. You know, after sitting in front of in front of your computer screen, or just sitting on Zoom and getting this instruction, writing down notes, maybe doing an assignment in class, you're even after class, the teachers assign even more assignments that are due by the following class. And so not only when you sign off of this class do you have a next class, but then after all your classes are done, then you have to, you know, continue to be working on your computer and continue to
Yes.
be, doing these kinds of assignments. And how many times has that, like, certain, like, that specific situation gone like your way or has happened to you?
So, it's very tough because,
Hmm.
pressure lies with the teachers, with the
Hmm.
administration, and with the students, of course. And
Hmm.
it's very hard because, teachers are, they need to, they need to teach their class, and they need to get through
Hmm.
all of this, all this curriculum in order to, provide the students with this knowledge of their subject.
Hmm.
Um, but it really does, it really is a challenge because, I appreciate, the district giving these, these little mental breaks and, longer lunch now. And, it does give us opportunities, to, relax, but it does happen often. We're not able to get through all the stuff that we need to get through in this, this class block. And, from there, what we didn't get to do, homework is assigned. And
Hmm.
even if it's not necessarily homework, but it's like, assignments that we didn't get to do in class. And, um and these assignments collectively add up for each and every class that the students are
Hmm.
taking. And this can range from whether it be a senior taking a whole lot of classes, or a freshman taking his beginner classes. It's not just like my teachers, it's not just that. And we
Hmm.
don't want to target, this is very collectively, as you said, district wide, nationwide. It is a struggle, but it does happen, you know fairly often with my
Hmm.
everyday classes.
Hmm. And yeah, another thing you say is although teachers are only required to have 12 grades per 6 weeks, teachers assign multiple assignments in their class, which can collectively add up to over 25 grades per 6 weeks. And I'm not sure if that's something in specific I want to ask you about that, but I will say that, the last 2 6 weeks, or this 6 weeks and next 6 weeks or this 6 weeks that is slowly coming to an end, has been 4 weeks. And normally our 6 weeks would last 6 weeks. So we can span the amount of 6 weeks. So it would be about what's it called, 2 assignments per week if you were to
Yeah.
do minimum by teacher. But seeing as how um, our classes are, or our 6 weeks is now 4 weeks for this 6 weeks and next week and next 6 weeks, it's kind of concerning because not only are we only required 12 per 6 weeks, which is really just four.
Hmm.
um 3 assignments would be fine. If we did three
Yeah.
assignments a week, maybe even then we'd be able to continue. But if you think about doing three, it's not really that challenging, or maybe not. But when teachers assign more than that, there lies the issue. Like you said, teachers are teachers, I feel, are pressured as to keep us busy
Yes.
rather than because they want to continue to be pushing grades, or maybe they just want to make sure they I guess it's like over preparation or over like bearing, in the sense that they want to ensure that you're understanding the material or maybe just retaining the material. I can't really be sure why, but how do you feel about that? That we're required only 12 grades per 6 weeks, but now we're in a time where our 6 weeks are really just 4 weeks. What do you have to say about that?
So, it really does suck because, we can't, these teachers, it's almost as if like they're required, like in order to be, get their wages, get all this stuff, they're required to, teach all these students, their material. And they're hoping, they're really hoping that the students of this class are grasping the knowledge and, actually retaining it, as you stated. Um, but I mean, I've noticed that teachers are starting to, acknowledge, what's happening. And they're like, okay, they're starting to become more understanding. And I've had fellow peers of mine, friends, district wide, even from other states. And it's been, it brings me joy because, like for a teacher to understand, a student, that's where bonds are created.
Hmm.
That's where, appreciation for the class is created. And, you know, it really does it really is a difficulty, as you stated, 4 weeks, to get these 12 grades, which is a minimum, in these 4 weeks. And this has been back to back 4 weeks.
Hmm.
And it's been very tough because, usually we would have these additional 2 weeks, which would make it six, to, state all this knowledge. And the fact that we're presented with four, it really is difficult because, we're online, these teachers are not in person, and students are in a totally different environment. And it really does, face a challenge, both students and teachers.
It still does feel brand new. I like that you say that, you mentioned that the fact that it's 4 weeks and it's online. Now, if it was 4 weeks and let's say we had some time in the classroom and we could spend time with the teacher, then I'm sure it would be in some ways, a little easier because we'd actually be in the classroom. But as it stands now, we have less time and we have less, I guess you could say, material or less outreach to our teachers. And so I appreciate that you say that a lot because I definitely feel that. Um, uh, I guess, you mentioned how several petitions are starting, district wide. Um, there have been several petitions regarding the amount of work that has been assigned while you're attending asynchronous classes started here at PSJ. Why did you feel like yours needed to be started after, district wide other ones have been started?
So I felt the need. I felt the need, because, students, not everyone is in the same environment as, you and I are. Some have to work financially, some have to take care of their siblings, they have chores, they have housework. And it really does face a challenge. Like I have fellow friends of mine, that are talking to these teachers, and I'm paying attention, and it brings me sadness because it's like, these guys, these people that want to participate in class aren't given, the opportunity to do so because, they have to provide. And it really is tough. So I decided to make this petition so that we can come to a better understanding of, how these kids are working in their environment, whether it be you, myself, or our fellow peers at our high school. Um, so I felt the need to have our voices heard.
Hmm.
whether it be a change like, okay, this is going to work and we're going to change it, or even a small, like, we'll take into account, and a minor change, I'll be happy with that. All we want to know, all we want to do or accomplish is, have our voices heard, for
Make
the
sure we're
kids that
on
are
like
not.
a clear appreciation for each other and a clear understanding as to, what exactly is going on both sides,
Yes,
not just one.
yes.
And are you aware of like the things like the school and the district is doing for like in approaching these issues?
Yes, I am. And as I stated, I'm very appreciative to what they have been doing, to be able to provide laptops, for a lot of these, people who weren't given or have electronic devices, to station buses, in certain areas, the, to give them, internet access, hotspot, and even
Hmm.
to provide, meals. Like,
Hmm.
some people are given, they're being given free meals
Hmm.
to simulate, sorry, like what a real, in-person school day would be like. you know
Right.
uh, we'd get our breakfast, we'd get our lunch, and it gives us the weekly. And I'm very appreciative towards that, to the efforts that are being made for our virtual learning, because it really is a challenge. It is nothing like physical learning, and
Hmm.
both parties, students, teachers, have to understand, it really is tough.
Students have different responsibilities when they're at home and when they're at school. There was designated school time because you're not at home. I mean, you're at school whenever we were in physical classrooms and we were with our teachers. There was a set time for school. I couldn't get up off of my desk, get up off of my chair and be in my kitchen or be in my living room or start doing a chore right after a class is over. I wouldn't have that. I would go to my next class and I would continue to learn. But since there's no, I feel like some parents even aren't fully aware that this is school time. And maybe even they are. Maybe they even are, you know what I mean? And just for an example, there was a moment in time where a student was in class and he went ahead and unmuted his mic, and you heard that he was in a working environment in a construction area. This kid, having to provide for his family, is trying his best to continue to receive his education, but I mean, that's difficult. I mean,
Yes, I
I,
I completely
I
agree.
we're you and I are lucky enough to be able to sit in our homes and be able to continue to learn, just right here in the confines of our home, where some people are still going out and still having to provide for their families. And yet, maybe those situations aren't necessarily put to the test, but, or are not really understood. I mean, even if they are, it's kind of like not fully to the point where we can reach like this understanding of each other.
Hmm.
And hearing that, it saddens me because people are definitely trying their best, and I know our teachers are too, and I know we're all trying to come up with solutions to these problems and how we can help and how we can possibly unite ourselves. But I definitely do think it takes a toll, like you said, and a big
Hmm.
thing to take into account is our mental health. And one thing that the school has started to do, which again, like you say, I'm sure we appreciate, is this like social emotional learning um, conversation. It would take up our hog time period,
Hmm.
um, where basically we have this period where we get to just talk.
Hmm.
Because one another thing that I feel is very, very not necessarily thought of and kind of pushed to the side is the social part of school.
Yes.
You and I would talk to our friends, we'd see each other in the hallways. I'd talk to my friends in passing periods. I'd do this and that. But some kids who, like we said, we're providing laptops and we're providing hotspots and we're providing those buses with the Wi-Fi and we're providing meals. Those students aren't given the same social access as we were in school. And I mean, that's especially our school, you know what I mean? With the
Hmm.
way our 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 school is set up, we could all see each other. I mean, I'm at one side of J Hall and you're all the way in M Hall. I can see you and wave at you.
Yeah, definitely.
It would be constant. It would be constant. social reassurance. We know that we're together and we know that we're all working towards the same goal. But since now schooling is, strictly online, I don't get time to, wave at you from the back of M Hall. I don't get the
Hmm.
time to pass my fellow peers in my hallway and say hello, say compliment their shoes, compliment their shirts. You know what I'm saying? Things like that. And when you take out the social part of schooling, the student probably, like a good majority of the students, won't find pleasure or won't find a reason to continue to try in school. Because I mean, let's be real, a good majority of students go because they have fun, because they're there with their friends and things like that. And when you take that out, that's a huge loss
Hmm.
in productivity, in participation. You know what I mean? Commonly
Yeah.
I'm in class and it's just a bunch of black squares and my teacher's has like a
Yeah.
PowerPoint up, and like, I mean, there's no conversation, no drive, no discovery, and things like
Hmm.
that. I mean, I'm sure we're trying to come up with solutions to that, but right now I feel as though we haven't even begin to scratch the surface with that.
And
And
yeah, I completely agree with
mhm,
you. Like it's very tough because this social interactions, it's almost like a key and lock with your mental health. And
mhm,
like you said, these kids are not given the opportunity. Even you and I, we cannot go and be like buddies with each other because of
mhm,
COVID. We have to be
mhm,
aware of external problems, internal problems, and it's very tough because mental health then affects your physical health, and your
mhm,
physical health can lead to a lot of other problems, and it's very tough because all of these are linked somehow. So if you take the social interaction out of school, which is the majority of school, like you said,
right,
participation, productivity, attitude, the
mhm,
drive. Like you've seen black squares, and my teachers are having to like really like they're having a tough time getting participation because you
mhm,
know whereas you and I would feel a little more comfortable, asking questions, getting the knowledge and all this stuff. Where, these kids and even I am at fault, I feel a little like uncomfortable because I'm scared that I'm gonna like slip up, or I'm scared
mhm,
that something's gonna happen,
mhm,
and this shows a decline in the productivity, the
mhm.
attitude, the drive, and it really is tough. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you, I mean, I know that your petition doesn't necessarily bring up a specific way that we can help and improve our current situation, but I do know that a big thing that you're pushing is advocacy for our our students, kind of personal, how should I say this, their like situations, you know what I mean,
yes.
the personal situations. But any like, how would you suggest that the students in schools like come together and sort of address what exactly the pressures, that, like I mentioned before, maybe someone has to work, maybe someone, like you said in the in the petition, how students have to care for their families, and how exactly do you get that understanding family wide, district wide, via teachers and admin, and then direct that towards the student. I mean, we're in the middle of, I know I didn't get to say this before, but we could, before we continue that, um we're in the middle of the worst crisis in modern American history. You know what I mean?
Yes.
The worst
Hmm.
pandemic in modern American history, and yet still students are trying to continue to pursue their education, but even then are still trying to upkeep their family's financial income, which is
Yes.
scary. And that
Hmm.
is
Very.
incredibly disheartening, and it hurts to hear. But how can we come together to address this as one, PSJ family, and one group of people who want to continue to pursue and encourage school, things like that.
Uh, and before we go on, my petition is not to bring down, my school's administration. And it's not to
Uh-huh. Of
cancel school
course.
or cancel the work, because that's not what I'm asking for. I want,
Right.
I just want an improvement, a better understanding for, these students, and even, you and I, like, I'm sure you stressed. I'm sure I have stressed, definitely. Um, but some solutions that we can come up with, like a better understanding. You know, all these kids need to do, is to speak out to them, and teachers as well. If they see, okay, this student's, he's not doing too well. Let me reach out to him before I start, criticizing and blaming. He's not doing his work. If we
Mhm.
can create an understanding of both parties, because it really is tough, because these teachers, they live a life too. They're not just these robots or these people that are programmed to, like give us all
Just
this
assign
work.
schoolwork and
Yes,
then
that
they hide inside a
yeah,
dungeon and recharge. Yeah.
yeah, like they're human beings too, and I'm sure a lot of these people, they have their families, they have their loved ones that they care about,
Hmm.
and if we can give more time to complete these assignments, I guarantee you students are not going to be like, oh, I have to do it by Wednesday 11:59, or I have to do
Hmm.
it by Friday, or else I'm going to be failing this class. If we can create an understanding between both the parties, and I have a little something written here. Let me see. So yeah, so possible solutions, give a better understanding. You know, even if we have, everything psychological. So if
Hmm.
and you know, um even the quantity, I've heard from a lot of people, like before I started my petition, I even, asked from different parties, different extracurriculars within our school, like how they feel about it. And many of them were like, it's just too much. Like I feel very pressured. I feel I don't have this drive to go to my classes anymore because I already know what's going to happen. So maybe a solution could be focus on the quality. Hopefully the students, are understanding what they're doing rather than work, 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 work. Like, out of this work, 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 we can have work and work, right? But they can be the best quality of the work to have a
Hmm.
better understanding.
And I agree with that. Teachers do have to teach a certain curriculum, but if teachers can figure out a way to make the curriculum, you know, um, engaging and fun, like
Yes.
you said, the people you talk to don't want to log on anymore because they know what's going to happen. They're going to sit in a room in a Zoom call, in a Microsoft Teams call with black squares, and the teacher's going to put on a PowerPoint and talk for 45 minutes to an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That's our schooling now, and until we find solutions to that, that's how it's going to be for a while.
It's gonna be
And
tough.
so I definitely think, if we're able to sacrifice, quantity, and replace that with quality, and replace that with participation, and replace that with, curriculum that is engaging, and doesn't, I mean, if you're a teacher, in person, you can maybe get away with this, but when students can easily just turn on their computer and then zone out, it's way too easy for a student to not,
Disregard,
yeah, to,
like
to
almost
just
disregard their
disregard that,
classes.
yeah, entirely, because it just is. I don't know a way to explain it, but I feel like the best way is to give you an example, like I just did. The way it's constantly, it's one constant, and that's it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very
Yeah,
unappealing.
yeah, it is very hard. Subjects. I prefer. Let's say I prefer bio. I prefer math over this,
Mhm.
this, right? And you prefer, history. And these kids
Mhm.
have different likings to subjects. They have dislikes. It's like any other, you know, like food, colors. Like they had likes, they had dislikes, and you know, um, how do I say this? I may feel like I can go all out in this class, but then when it's this class, it's almost as if I just want to, like, yeah, go through the motions almost.
Mhm.
And I guarantee this is a problem for a lot of students. Uh and now, if you look at the bigger picture, a lot of these students, they they just don't want to do it. And my
Mhm.
petition is, like I said, it's not necessarily, okay, I'm going to side with these kids, I'm going to, no work, this, that. I'm not doing that,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of kids who are working, their butts off. They're working hard to, to educate themselves. And with, with the surplus of work that's, that's provided, it's tough. And, you
Mhm.
know, all I'm asking for is, a possible solution to be
Mhm.
acknowledged by, if this, if this blows up and we can, help students of different, states. Because I guarantee you, this is not just a Texas problem, a South Texas
Mhm.
problem.
Well, I know that recently, TA in Texas, there was an article written that, grades have dropped dramatically with online learning. Almost like 25% more people failing
Hmm.
in the entire state of Texas, which is crazy to think about. From one semester to the next, you have 25% more people failing their classes. And if that isn't a testament to how online schooling is not necessarily difficult, but hasn't yet been figured out by the students and the teachers, then I'm not sure what is.
Hmm. And the way I think of it, you have two solutions. You can, you can attempt what we're doing right now to give online learning and have this, declining grades, or you can have no school at all. You have a decrease in learning, a decrease, and no matter what, there's going to be negatives. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be horrible. Horrendous for both of these things. So, this attempt for virtual learning is very, is very, how do I say this? Like commemorable. Like, it's very, I'm happy they're attempting to do this because, I guarantee you, teachers and even students would rather be, relaxing. They'd rather
Mhm.
be doing stuff that they want to do. No one wants to come to
Mhm.
school. No one wants to, work. Like, it's tough. So yeah, like I mean, it's very tough because virtual learning is way out of the ballpark as what is it, as online learning or in-person learning is.
Mhm.
Like you and I have said, more participation and all of that. And it's very tough because there is no right path right now.
Right.
There's a fork in the road.
We're still continuing to figure things out as we go. Where we ended last year is where we picked up this year. It felt like in between that time, it didn't feel like we gained any knowledge from the one before. And that's not just necessarily, you know, a jab or something bad. I mean, it is a very unknown thing. I mean, this is to have this, take over nationwide, worldwide,
Hmm.
is not something that's easy. And I don't think that's what we're saying. I think we're trying to provide understanding on both parties. And you know, Joshua, I commend you highly. Um, Joshua's petition is at 564 signatures. The goal is continuing to rise. He started with the goal of 100, and then it was 200, then it was 250, then it was 300, and now all the way up to 564. Where this had just started. When did you start this petition, by the way?
Last evening.
So last evening, and we're already at 564 signatures from students. I'm sure from some teachers. Things. People agree with Josh, and people are noticing that people are in different situations, and we should definitely take that into consideration. So Josh,
Mhm.
again, I commend you. Any last thing you want the people to know? You want them to
Um,
understand?
Anything that I want you guys to know, anyone who watches this, anyone who pays attention, I want you guys to keep pushing. Something's gonna happen. Whether it be my petition, whether it be someone else's, whether it be something within your own school. Something's gonna happen, and I know you guys are gonna get through this. Chris, myself, and even the people surrounding you and you guys in your school district. It's gonna be tough, but I want you guys to keep pushing through it. We're gonna get through this. We're gonna get through this together. And um, last thing I want to say to the administration, the PSJA school board, um, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I hope that my petition is not, very petty and not like a jab at you all that I'm hating on you, or that like that I don't appreciate what y'all are doing, because that is the complete opposite. To think that we have all these opportunities, for people that didn't have this, like, you know, it's I'm very appreciative because sadly, not everyone has perfect lives. No one has
Mhm.
Wi-Fi all the time, and it really is tough. So I appreciate the school district for what they're doing, and hopefully my petition can get acknowledgement so that we can come to an agreement with each other, so that a change can be made for our students within the district, and even nationwide if that's possible. And
Mhm.
um and that is about everything I'd hoped to accomplish by explaining with this podcast. And hopefully the people watching, whether it be teachers, students, uh, or administration, hopefully they're able to you know take into account what you and I have said, and
Mhm.
hopefully something great does happen.
Absolutely, guys. And remember, why this is why we started the J's Up podcast, was to make sure our students were heard. You guys can go ahead and make yourself heard. I'm sure we can link the URL to Josh's petition. Make sure that if you feel that your voice needs to be heard, that you guys sign it, that you guys leave a comment on it, and make sure that your voices are heard. If you have any other topics you would like us to talk about, elections crazy. We just got a new
Super.
school board, or a new school board was just elected, and everything like that. So, what a great way to start, by acknowledging our students as students and not as numbers. Not that you guys have done that before, but just it'd be a good way to ease into this next tenure, if you will. But
Yeah.
thank you, Josh. Thank you to everyone listening. Thank you to everyone watching. Make sure to continue to support our students. Make sure to continue to support your teachers. Make sure to continue to support our district. And remember, guys, to stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for watching the JZ podcast. I'll see you soon.
We're gonna get through this together, guys. Keep it up.